And now Leah is going to make a contribution and have the not inconsiderable challenge. Sorry, could we just have attention? Leah is going to is faced with the not inconsiderable challenge of summarising and perhaps providing a context for the debate that we take forward. Leah, please.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a not inconsiderable task indeed to try to follow that and furthermore to summarise. But I would say at the outset that the debate today is certainly one of the finest we've had, and I think it goes to the heart of the matter of what we're about. It goes to the heart of what is a constitution and whose constitution is it. And I think De Valera would be proud today to think that this document is actually producing discussions of such intensity in which we're all engaged. What I propose to do just very briefly is highlight some points from today's discussions and kind of pose a few questions. And what we're going to be doing today, unusually, is presenting you with a draft ballot paper later today. We usually do that on Sunday morning when we've had the whole night to work on it, so to speak. But this time we're going to present you with a rough document later today so we can all have an opportunity later on to discuss it and reflect on it and so on. So some of the points emerging from this morning then, I mean, Liam Thornton provided a very comprehensive account of what economic and social and cultural rights are. And I mean, starting off today, that was hugely educational. We can now identify what they are, and they're set out very well in the first page of his document. And David Fennelly then explained to us with utter accuracy and detail that some of these are already expressly protected in the Constitution, some of them are already impliedly protected in the Constitution, some of them are protected in the form of principles which are not justiciable in Article 45, and some of them arguably are not protected in the Constitution. That's a matter for further debate. And then Professor Aoife Nolan explained to us the different types of models that could be drawn on from her comparative work. And she mentioned in particular this notion that there could be a duty on the state to strive to achieve progressive realisation of economic, social and cultural rights with due regard to resources and resource considerations. And she further mentioned some variants of that model, such as, for example, that there could be particular reference to certain vulnerable groups which people considered should be mentioned in the Constitution, or there could be particular reference to certain obligations, in which case the state might have more immediate duties to fulfil those particular obligations. But I suppose going back to the questions then that are before us, there's really a prior question, which is, do we need change at the constitutional level? Should economic, social and cultural rights be in the Constitution at all? And as I've said, to a large degree, many of them are, to some extent anyway. But that's the first question. Do we need constitutional change here? I mean, we have, as Liam Thornton pointed out, many legislative provisions as well dealing with economic, social and cultural rights. Is that enough? Ireland has also ratified the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. Ireland is bound by those obligations. Is that enough? But if one is to suggest constitutional change, or at least suggest some reforms which you can vote on, yes or no, the questions then are really the what and the how. And the what question is really, are there any particular rights that you would want to have mentioned in the Constitution expressly that are not currently expressly mentioned? Or would you want to change in the wording? For example, some people have said that the wording of Article 45 is possibly a bit old-fashioned. It refers to the infirm and the orphan and so on. And, some people might want to change in wording there. So that's really the what. But the really difficult question then, of course, is the how. How do we protect these rights? The most minimal thing really would be to protect them as principles. In other words, the Article 45 model, that we would rely on that, which expressly says that these principles are not cognizable by the courts. That would be the most minimal change. At a further level, a more extreme change, if you like, would be to put in a provision that these are rights, and either to say that they are cognizable by the courts, or simply to describe the duty of the state to respect, protect and fulfil these rights, and really let the whole thing play out, as Michael McDowell was suggesting, something that wouldn't appeal to him, and the notion that we could let the courts decide to what extent they could enforce these rights. Or would you want to put in some sort of provision that would refer to the courts being involved in exceptional cases. I know Professor Jerry White, who has been an expert here on another session, has written, for example, that courts might want to be involved in cases of egregious neglect, as he describes it, or where the state or the government of the Oireachtas has simply failed entirely to protect a certain set of rights. So those are the kind of questions we might have before us. And I should add in one other sort of option as well that some people might want on the ballot paper, which is the notion that this whole area be deferred to another body for further consideration or so on. That's something that we looked at in the context of our Doyle reform recommendations. And that's something that if there was support for it, we could add in as well on the ballot paper. I think that's enough from me, really, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, I think I have to say I think that's a very fine summary, and I think it gives perhaps an indication of the unfolding thinking that is surrounding the construction of the ballot paper. Obviously, there's more work needs to be done on it, and we will come back to you hopefully with a first draft of this at 4:45. Again, no mean challenge. What I propose now is, again, with renewed thanks to all of the panellists this afternoon, that we break for coffee. We resume at 4 o'clock for a roundtable discussion. We talk about the ballot paper at 4:45, and we stop promptly at 5 o'clock and go and watch the rugby. Okay, thank you.